Hello, welcome back to another video. Welcome back to the YouTube channel, and welcome to another reaction video. My first reaction video was a month ago. We were reacting to the first James Lawrence Alcott West Ham United video. A couple of you asked me to react to this in my chat, so I will be reacting to it now. Now the audio is going to come off a bit funny because I've been trying to, do the whole StreamYard thing where I share a Google tab and the audio comes out clean and stuff, but I'm finding it very hard to figure that out for whatever reason, and I don't think it really works on my Mac at this current moment. But the audio should come out fine for as long as the video's volume should be fine, and you should be able to hear it. I will be pausing the video as well. But yeah, we're going to react to why the Premier League should fear West Ham by James Lawrence Alcott once again. The original video will be in the description, of course, because I am using someone else's content. And yeah, make sure to like the video and subscribe if you're new. We're trying to hit 500 before the end of the year. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this because it's going to be interesting to see what James Lawrence Alcott is going to be saying this time. I just got to put the video where I can see myself and see my own reaction and see you guys. But yeah, let's get straight into it.
Right, have you not seen this? West Ham are splashing over 100 million quid on some fantastic players this summer, and the Premier League should be worried about what Lopetegui has got planned, in my opinion. It's definitely up for debating because we're going to look into their interesting pre-season tactics, their signings so far, and why they could transform West Ham next season. And that's despite having some stinking goals being scored against them in pre-season. So pre-season is always a weird one to measure as a barometer of a team's quality heading into the season. But what makes West Ham's even weirder is that they're obviously working under a new manager and he's got to get that message across. And that often doesn't entirely happen in pre-season.
And we also have got new signings coming in. We've got our best players to come in as well. You know, Paquetá only played in the Betway Cup. Bowen only played in the Betway Cup, but barring a behind closed doors friendly. We only really had Kudus, Antonio, Antonio, Mavropanos, and Kilman that were there, and Emerson that were going to be starters. And even Antonio is probably not going to start, but Antonio is still a key player, you know. So that's also got to take into account as well. We have had some stinky goals being conceded against us in the pre-season.
Example, last season, Bournemouth's slow start to last season, and also I think with everything that's happening this year in terms of the financial side, you've got the transfer window, and of course Copa America and the Euros. There's going to be a lot of half-baked teams in the first month of the season. So this is how West Ham lined up for their very first pre-season match versus Ferencváros, the Hungarian champions. Now, I know this side only had Max Kilman in there as far as new signings go, but we'll come to that in a minute. The important thing here is what this lineup actually meant and why this is only one of quite a few plans that Lopetegui has for this side.
That's the thing. If you guys were in that watch along with me and Strasbourg Steve when watching this game, I was quite impressed with this game because they were 4 games into their pre-season. They were about to start their new season in Hungary, and they're in the Champions League. And we were lining up with Orford and Potts in midfield, who are very highly thought of, but playing in the first team for the first time with a bunch of first team players together. And we had Maxwell Cornet up front as well. So, yeah.
Moving into the new season. And can I just take a breath? Because what I will say is, I think the middle batch of the Premier League is as exciting as it's ever been. I put West Ham within that. And so if you are watching this video thinking that you're excited about another team in the middle of the table, let me know who they are and why I need to talk about them and who I should keep an eye on. So this 4-3-3 setup is all about the midfield and how they operate without the ball, but also what they do in possession. So in this moment here, we've got James Ward-Prowse. James Ward-Prowse is on the ball. He's the deepest of the midfield 3. However, the 3 midfield, James Ward-Prowse, Lewis Orford, and Freddie Potts, they all took turns actually in the match to go and collect the ball from defence. So this
facts. I hope you guys noticed that as well. We didn't have a designated someone that was going to come and receive the ball all the time as well. We talked about this in the watch-alongs. Usually you would have Edson Alvarez there if everyone would be fully fit. But let's see if that happens even when Edson Alvarez goes in, because we can see that he can go forward as well. So Guido Rodriguez could be the guy to go in there and receive the ball. So same with Paquetá or Kudus or whoever plays in the midfield. We're going to see what happens with that.
Very difficult for opponents to go man-to-man in the midfield, as you can see from the distance between this player here and that midfielder. So this also means that opposition's midfielders, they get caught between these different spaces, and it means that it opens up passing lanes like this one. Really simple pass that could be made, and importantly as well, a simple pass then after that. Those two movements are really important, especially against any kind of team that's looking to defend. They're often defending the first pass, but if you can play a little one bounce pass, and you can see that Orford there kind of wants the ball because he's got that pass in his mind already, it kind of opens it up, and then all of a sudden you're in behind the midfield. So this is for a few moments later, and this is really interesting because Ferencváros have now won the ball back, and West Ham's midfield reaction to being out of possession, I think, is really, really interesting. So notice firstly how close that midfield three are in terms of sort of how narrow they are within the pitch. Right? If you think about the semicircle there, you can see there's actually only a little bit more than the width of that for it. But what's not normal, I mean, that's pretty normal, okay? But what's not normal is how aggressive they are. And you'd expect a midfield three to have that six being a little bit deeper. You'd imagine your six would be here to sort of cover in between those lines, but they're that little bit higher up. It's interesting. And with those midfield players so high and tight, I think it means that any central ball is going to get cut out. But what's super interesting as well is the front line. They're aggressive in terms of the midfield, not outrageously aggressive in terms of their press, but then the forward line, they're not too aggressive either. So what happens is all those balls are going to get cut out through the middle because you've got a lot of bodies here.
Yep, facts.
And what that leads to is a ball that has to go round the side. And that's exactly what happens. That ball is then played out wide and not through the middle, which is absolutely something that Lopetegui wants to occur. They want them to go around the sides and not through the middle, which is what obviously a lot of teams do as well. But it's the way that they do it in terms of the midfield and the forward that I think is interesting here. So there is a counterpoint to all of this because despite that midfield being high, as I've said, the press isn't that intense. That means that that ball over the top is quite possibly on. More on that in just a second.
You reckon we're gonna offside trap people like Aston Villa and Tottenham do all the time? Like our defensive line goes high so we can bait people into running in behind because when done well, it can be very frustrating for opponents, but when done really shit, it can be very risky.
I think what Lopetegui wants to really focus on is that any of those line breaking passes, they're going to be a lot more difficult to get through all of those bodies. They'll be cut out, and then West Ham can counter very likely. West Ham have played two Premier League sides in pre-season, Palace and Wolves. Both of them were 3-0 defeats. Both of them had some horrific errors in there. But again, I don't think you need to read into it too much.
Facts.
Because players aren't fit, players are doing 2 training sessions a day, players are playing in outrageous heat, and players are taking on new structures and ideas, and that leads to silly mistakes of which...
Well, I'm not going to excuse the heat because everyone's playing in the same conditions, but I hear one of the other things.
But what we should be reading into is the different formations used. So against Wolves, it was a 4-3-3, very similar to the one that we showed you earlier. But against Palace, Lopetegui changed it up and put out a side that looked like this. And as we said, this was a 3-1 defeat. Let's look at why before looking at how the new signings, I think, are going to solve some of these issues. So, remember when we said that the midfield's positioning could be a problem for long balls? Was I setting myself up? Was I setting myself up? Because we weren't lying. So Anderson's got the ball here for Crystal Palace, pretty deep, and a lot of teams would have players that be looking to press, and that might be the forward that would press. That might be either of those forwards that press to look to kind of, win the ball high the pitch. You understand what pressing means. But what's interesting here, again, when you think of Lopetegui's style here, and maybe the problem with a long ball, is the fact that although the midfield is high, as we've spoken about, those forwards aren't making those runs. So that gives them a little bit of time. The other thing that we haven't touched on as of yet, I kept it from you, but it is a bit of a weird one. Well, not weird one, is that that compactness that any team wants. Lopetegui wants it as well, and he wants a high line. And so one long ball over the top. Would you like a whistle?
They were going direct a lot in this game, by the way. Even from goal kicks, we were pressing them, and as soon as it went to the keeper, direct, they saw a ball on straight to Odson Edouard, which is why a lot of people were concerned about Mavropanos and Kilman together.
And West Ham are reeling a little bit, and in transition, they have been struggling somewhat. I think they've not had as much going forward as they would like, and we're going to get into that. but one ball over the top from a defensive line that initially is around about here means that those centre backs are going to be asked to do those doggies on the way back, and they're going to have to be able to deal with it if they're going to look to compress the middle of the pitch like it looks like they are at the moment. But instead of focusing on closing those passing lanes, which they actually did here, it only takes one ball over the top and you go from there to here and you're through on goal. But the thing I'm trying to get across here, and this is actually something I've been thinking about with the channel a lot, is that I'm kind of seeing like a lot of overhyping maybe on some players. So what we're going to try and do, and try and keep me honest with it, is that put forward the positive on teams, but kind of understand the questions that are there as well. And I think preseason is exactly that time, because the players that are lining up in these friendlies that we all go, oh, wow, they're going to be struggling. It's obviously nonsense. And
especially in this one, people got to understand as well, the reason why we played this 5-3-2 formation was because of personnel. And I'm pretty sure it's this game where there were players that lined up in a behind closed doors friendly in the previous game. So Cornet was there for that. Bowen was there for that. Ings was there for that. That's why we didn't have many attackers available in this game, which is why we went to a 5-3-2. Now, yes, even when we play a 4 at the back, we're probably going to go to 3 in possession at times, maybe with the midfielder dropping in and one of the fullbacks cutting in, mainly being Wan-Bissaka in certain aspects because Emerson's better going forward. But yeah, I think as much as I didn't want to see a 5-3-2 at all because I want to watch and have fun in a preseason game, even in this instance, at times it wasn't even 3 at the back. At times Emerson was playing as a winger and Cresswell was playing as a left back. It was just sometimes off the ball, Emerson was tracking back as a wing back just to cover the spaces that they would attack in when it came to trying to match their formation as well.
Players that will be lining up for that first Premier League match against Aston Villa for West Ham will be very different. So firstly, let's look at the players that they could bring back into the fold. Jarrod Bowen is currently on an extended holiday after his involvement with England. Lucas Paquetá isn't likely to face a ban anytime soon, according to reports. Edson Alvarez will be key in patrolling that midfield area that we just highlighted as a weakness. And when you add these into the lineup, it begins to get just that little bit tastier and gives you that little bit of hope for Havertz fans. But it can also be tastier once we see these new signings. West Ham have not hesitated in buying some players that are good to go, good to excite, and good to take West Ham, I think, to a new level. Crescencio Somerville, the best player in the EFL last year.
Facts.
He was by a mile. I was able to see him live at Loftus Road. Yes, we beat them 4-0. That's not for now. The important thing is that Somerville was still very impressive in that game. Last season with 19 goals and 9 assists to his name on that left wing. What's interesting, I've had a few messages on it, is where will he fit into this team? We'll get to that. What's crucial is that it's not about 11 players. It's about 18, 19, 20 players. I know you're not going to get them all on the pitch in one go, but it's about that squad, right? So what does Somerville bring to West Ham? The thing about Crescencio Somerville is that he is different to normal wingers. He doesn't do what normal wingers do. Let me explain exactly what I mean and why it will work for Lopetegui. Because this is a game where Leeds have just won the ball, okay? If I just move it along, you'll see that he then gets himself on the ball. Yep. What does he do? What does a proper winger do? A proper winger, an out-and-out winger, might kind of want to go wide. You might want to lay it off and then go wide. If we move it along,
he runs to the inside.
He does lay it off. Now what should he do? Well, most wingers would go like that. They would drag this player away. They would drag this player away. They would be looking and thinking about creating space for the person with the ball.
He wants the ball
He's
back,
a little bit more selfish than that. But that's not the worst thing. Because if we move it on, what he actually does is he goes dead straight because he wants the ball and he actually wants to force the pass to him. Because I think there's an element of ego there. It's a nice ego that you want from an attacking player. And if you let it play, you can see exactly what happens. He's able to drive with the ball and get involved. And God knows what the goalkeeper's doing, but he does go on to get himself a goal. That's what he will do. Next up, we've got Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Now, this is a player more important in this video than you would first expect. And why is that? Well,
I'm very interested to see what he thinks. I also want to say it's good to see that someone that actually takes interest in other teams rather than just taking interest in one of their own. I know James Lawrence Alcott has been doing that for years, don't get me wrong, but it's just refreshing to see that from a West Ham point of view, because a lot of people just don't watch us and don't really analyze us properly. But we're a video and a half into watching James Lawrence Alcott analyze West Ham, and he's got us bang on pretty much, like, when analysing us quite a bit. So I'm very impressed, of course. And obviously, make sure to subscribe to him if you don't somehow know who he is already. He's way bigger than I am. But yeah, I rate it.
Signing of Wan-Bissaka actually tells us a lot about the real plan A that Lopetegui has up his sleeve, or short sleeve, depending on what sleeve, or vest, might be down here, could be anywhere.
Waistcoat.
Now, we can all agree that Aaron Wan-Bissaka isn't the most dynamic attacking fullback in the league. What we can agree on is that he is great one-on-one defensively. And I think that's going to lead us into something very important coming up. And importantly, an option for your FPL team. Now, this one is exciting. If you ignore the fact that he's 31 years old, and the fee that is around 27 million, but it's for a striker, a striker that played in a Champions League final, probably should have won it, probably should have scored some goals, a guy that plays for Germany. It's a great signing. But Nicholas Füllkrug offers West Ham what they were lacking last season. And there's one goal in particular that we'll show you here.
I love this goal.
To analyze, because it dispels the myth that Füllkrug is this one-dimensional big man who's only good for balls into the box and to hold it up. This goal is from the Champions League semi-final. That's right. West Ham fans, be excited about that. You've signed someone who last season was scoring winners in Champions League semi-finals. Okay? Get excited. Come on. Am I right? Now, wait until we show you the next part, because the goal is absolutely phenomenal. Now, Füllkrug's not even in shot in this first one. Schlotterbeck has the ball in his own half. Where is he? There he is. He's got his head up. He's looking for one person. That person, Füllkrug. Getting excited myself now. Where is Füllkrug? Füllkrug's already on his way, and he has anticipated that ball's going to be on its way over the top before the PSG players have.
He's going to make it stick for our wingers, but he's also going to make it stick for himself. That's what people need to understand. Like he's going to create goals for himself and everyone else. So as long as we get the ball to him, we should be fine. But he's also got to get used to the pace of the league. Give the guy a chance, because at West Ham, we don't give strikers a chance. That's why they fail. Whether it stems from the coach or the fans or the owners or whoever's upstairs as well that's deciding footballing decisions, this is why strikers fail at West Ham.
Figured it out. Now, two things are worth noting here. Firstly, Füllkrug is more mobile than you think he is.
Facts.
Okay, he's not super rapid, but what he does have is a quick mind. He's got sharp instincts, okay? And this gives him an edge in exactly these types of situations, because it sees him get a lot of chances from it, from that, little bit of clever thinking. I think he's one where, like, think about Danny Ings has been disappointing. This feels like someone in more of a sort of prime state of mind, let's say, and in great confidence as well. And hopefully you're going to get what you wanted from that. And of course, with a new manager as well, that's going to play a different style. This touch here is fantastic. Just takes the ball away a little bit from that defender whilst also not slowing him down. It stays within his stride, and it allows him to then get his head up once. It's very functional in how he does it, technically very strong. One touch away from the danger, a look up at what corner he wants to go and then where the goalie's standing. And then with an unbelievable technique, Donnarumma has only just reacted after the ball has gone behind him.
Power.
So, and this is the kicker, guys. This is the crucial bit. This is with his bad foot. This is with his weaker foot. So you've got a proper striker on your hands there.
Two-touch finish.
Big goals in big games, whilst supposedly not having pace and being one-dimensional. And actually, Füllkrug has one of the hardest strikes in world football, and it's a winning formula, isn't it? And also, I think the thing to remember here is the strain on Antonio over the last few years. Yeah,
relying on him too much, he can play a role, but I feel sorry for Antonio, because over the past few years, we've just be like, can you get us out of trouble, please? Can you? Just solely you. But luckily, under this system as well, Antonio won't have to, it won't have to just be him. Even when he plays and he starts, it won't have to just be all on him. It felt like Moyes' system was all on Antonio. And that was my problem. And when people criticize Antonio, that's why I'm always there to defend him. Always. And for what he's done for the club as well. But Antonio Füllkrug as my striker options, I'm more than happy with that.
It's playing Moyes ball, but to have someone different to bring in now and actually several different profiles, gives West Ham just a new lease of life. So, with all this considered, who fits where and what is the style going to look like? Well, I'm not going to milk it. We're going to put Areola in goal.
Facts.
And then Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I think, is obviously going to come in and be that right back. He's going to be a back four, I think, for them. And I think what could be interesting here is you've got Kilman. Good.
What about Tadibo, bruv? This was clearly recorded before Tadibo. Because I ain't trying to see number 27 start anytime soon.
And Emerson. Now, Emerson could have a very different role here. And I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka may possibly be tasked with what he does best, which is having a lot of one-on-one situations and allowing that right winger to stay high. So what that means is that you kind of maybe become a bit of a back three. Also, if you are going to play a high line, having players that can deal with those passes over the top, I think having someone like Wan-Bissaka to sort of sit in and tuck round at times will be very useful. If you think about, say, Kyle Walker for England, there's always an option for him to just tuck in because he doesn't offer that same amount going forward. And I think
that's the perfect way to get the best out of Aaron Wan-Bissaka, by the way, especially in this system.
Someone like Emerson will be able to play a lot higher up the pitch. And so when I was talking about FPL earlier, Emerson could be your man. I think he's going to get a lot more opportunities to get higher up the pitch, especially if they go with a back four. And despite being left-footed, it could well be that Kilman is on the right because Lopetegui actually played him on the right when he was at.
And he played on the right quite a lot, just in general. But I think, obviously, it's known that he prefers Aged over Mavropanos, so maybe Aged would start over Mavropanos. But obviously, Tadibo's going to come in. So I don't imagine it's going to be Tadibo left centre-back, Kilman right centre-back, but Kilman is very comfortable in both, but even whether it's a right of a 3 or the right of a 2 centre-back role, that's where he's been comfortable at Wolves. He's played quite a lot there at Wolves.
Right, let's move into that midfield area now. You've got Guido Rodriguez, who's just made his way in. I think Alvarez would still be that starter for them. I think you've obviously got Paquetá, and as we've spoken about previously, James Ward-Prowse, it will be that narrow midfield three that he wants. He wants that 4-3-3, but obviously, every formation is going to be different.
It's going to be interesting because Lopetegui clearly prefers Ward-Prowse over Souček, but he played Souček for 90 minutes in the previous pre-season friendly game. So I think he's going to start against Aston Villa, but I think he's probably trying to decide who's the best backup. Souček and Ward-Prowse. I don't think Souček has a future here, but I think Ward-Prowse is also more likely to stay here because of the homegrown factor as well. Because we want to let go of Danny Ings, for example, so we're not going to let go of Danny Ings and Ward-Prowse. So I think for the most part, it's good when everyone's fully fit. It'll probably be Paquetá, Alvarez, and Rodriguez. But I think when one of them isn't fit, it's going to be Ward-Prowse.
Alvarez will be likely to be the one that's putting out those fires and also receiving the ball generally, whilst you've got James Ward-Prowse and Paquetá, who will also be allowed to be that a little bit higher, but we'll have the opportunity, because they both got that in their arsenal, to drop deep and pick up the ball as well. I think Paquetá, for the most part, will be tasked with staying higher and working in that channel on that left-hand side a little bit. James Ward-Prowse, similar kind of thing, actually, because I think there's some really great combinations there for him to utilise, especially if Aaron Wan-Bissaka is sat that little bit deeper.
I know I keep pausing it, but it's a reaction video. I'm not just going to sit and watch the video. So if you're moaning, don't comment anything about me pausing the video. Otherwise, I'm just going to remove you from commenting on the video. Paquetá, by the way, and Ward-Prowse, like in this, let's say it's going to be them two that start in these situations. Ward-Prowse is very good at third man runs. That's an attribute that I saw at Southampton quite a lot. So if he can revive a role at West Ham, it will be in this system. And I've actually maintained that for quite a bit. I do understand the physicality issues, for sure, but I do want to give Ward-Prowse another chance under a different system. Listen, if he performs like shit here as well in his natural position, then I'll hold my hands up and I was wrong. Simple as that. Because I can admit when I'm wrong. But also with Paquetá as well, I think the best you get out of him is combining. He's a combination player. He likes combining. You saw that in the Betway Cup with Mohamed Kudus and his natural ability to combine with Emerson. As we've seen, they're pretty much telepathic. I've never seen anything like it at West Ham. The only problem is that Paquetá probably forces the risky pass a lot more in our own half. I'm fine with it happening in the other half, but just in this half, like in terms of our half, that could still be a problem. However, it won't be as much of a problem as it was under Moyes because he had less people that were going to show for him on the ball under the previous manager. So he wasn't just doing some random pass because he wanted to pass. He's actually going to create like really good opportunities. Like we saw in the Betway Cup, I'm pretty sure like he put the ball over the top for Bowen quite a bit. And the through balls to Kudus as well. And you're going to see more of them combination goals, whether it's Antonio or Fulcrum with that link-up play. By the way, Antonio has good link-up play. I forgot to say that earlier. People like to shame Antonio on his link-up play, but you don't really get to see it under David Moyes' system. You're going to see, even though Antonio's older and he probably will play less games, you're still going to see an Antonio that's on top of his game, and Paquetá and him actually have a good relationship on the pitch.
But as we spoke about, out of possession, expect them to come and play quite narrow and that little bit deeper as well to make sure that the middle of the pitch is nice and congested, and in particular this sort of central zone here as well is going to be crucial. He doesn't want anyone pissing about in this area here.
Set
you can
traps.
go over, you can go round, but please don't go through, or maybe give it a go, because we are set for those traps so that we can counter-attack and utilize these attacking players, of which they are plentiful with pace now. And when we're talking about Summerville as a new signing, this is where we have a bit of a problem, because I think you can't not play Kudus. You just can't. And when Bowen's back, you can't not play him either. So although it feels a bit gluttonous, let's say, to have someone like Summerville in the side or in the squad, it's about having a great squad. But it's, you're trying to fit in 3 players into LEC positions, and I just don't think he will start. And while Summerville is a magnificent signing, I really believe that so much potential there as well, and I love his mindset. You can't drop Kudus at the moment. Also, having him as that option, I think, is very, very exciting off the bench. I think each side of the attack should operate slightly differently. Whilst you've got Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who's going to contribute down the right at times, but not as much as maybe Soufal was bombing on. Expect Emerson to be that a lot higher up, and there to be some lovely little interplay between these guys, looking to find Paquetá at times so he can play that lovely pass into.
We saw that in the Betway Cup, by the way.
Kudus laying it off, or Emerson being able to make those, inbound runs as well. Lots of runners there with lots of intelligence. And then on the other side of it, James Ward-Prowse in this little zone here. I'm even going to mark him off. This little zone here, I think, is really, really exciting for West Ham because, first of all, Jared Bowen, who likes that starting position but is also willing to make those direct runs, he's willing to do that. And I think you've got a player with the quality of James Ward-Prowse who can go and find him. You've also got that safety net of Wan-Bissaka, so Bowen can stay high as well, which will create stuff. But finally, I think what's really, really nice here is utilizing the brilliance of his crossing ability. And to have Fulkrug or Kudus at the back post, there could be moments where there's movement there from Fulkrug at the right time. Emerson, with that ability to bomb on, you can move everyone along a little bit as well. But if we move that all back, what I do really like is the idea of Fulkrug at the back post, quality cross, quality technical player in Fulkrug, and you've got yourself some good headed goals that I could see. I could see this being a really, really lovely partnership. And in terms of Paquetá and Ward-Prowse, any player that's attacking player, you want someone to understand what you're trying to do in terms of your runs, and you don't want to just make runs for the sake of it. You've got 2 super smart players there who can go and find those guys. And
facts.
Well, one other thing that I think is going to be really, really useful is that, okay, we've spoken about that middle of the pitch. But let's move it back. You're not always going to have the ball. You're going to have to defend deep at times, okay? And if you go and have to do that, I think you've got some really strong players here. A bit of more size there. If those crosses come in, we know they're going to be narrow in terms of Paquetá and Ward-Prowse. And what I really like is, in terms of not totally losing the old West Ham, let's say, on the counter-attack, if you can get that ball to Fulkrug with, intelligent passes of the ball, Paquetá wanted to get involved there, bless him. What's super exciting is, again, and I'm finding myself going towards sort of Giroud, Teddy Sheringham kind of comparison when it comes to Fulkrug. But what's so exciting is that maybe you could add that sort of Harry Kane element to it a little bit, but maybe not with those long passes.
Hopefully with a few more trophies.
In terms of being able to hold up the ball and then to find these two players making their runs in behind, I don't think there's many teams that are going to be able to live with West Ham if they can get the machine working right and deal with it both from a defensive side, but an offensive transition as well. They can get it right one end, get it right the other end. They're going to be a very, very exciting team to watch this year.
Well, that was a great video. No, by the way, that was a great video. I really enjoyed that, and it kind of reassured what I was thinking about the image of West Ham on the pitch for sure. I'm actually going to talk about like that tomorrow. Like you'll see this on the Wednesday. I'm going to talk about a little bit more on the Thursday as well. I was going to try and do a live show, a live stream on Thursday, but I don't know who's about, so we'll see. But I really enjoyed that video. I think James Lawrence Alcott, for the most part, got everything spot on. I think he actually got everything spot on, to be honest, when it came to his view on West Ham and his analysis in general. So yeah, I'm very happy with that. And big up to everyone that recommended me to watch that video as well. Any other videos that you guys want me to react to, just in general, make sure to leave it in the comments. And you were speaking about FPL earlier. If you want to join my FPL league, I'm going to leave the link again in the community page. It'll be the first thing that you see on the community page, because there's people that have joined, and this could be your last chance to join, because the league starts on Friday. So yeah, make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe if you are new. My social medias are in the description if you want to follow me, and an email for the inquiries. I'll see you guys later.